So as you must be already aware, Informatica Powercenter component is mainly used for Informatica ETL purposes.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you a brief introduction on ETL, what is the significance of it, and then we'll just quickly jump onto the Powercenter things.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so ETL, the typical requirement of ETL is whenever we wanted to process the information from our OLTP systems,
Uh-huh.
pick the information and load our overlap systems on periodical basis. So this is
Right.
done usually with the help of ETL activity or ETL jobs. So overlap system means our data warehouse, which needs to be continuously or periodically loaded with all our transaction data. Let's say it can be a daily or weekly or fortnightly or monthly, whatever it is, a frequency it is. Basically, the intent is to populate our overlap systems coming with our transactional data on periodical basis. And when we do this, it's not a simple data dump. We don't simply dump the data from OLTP system to OLAP system. Sometimes we may need to process this data. We may need to apply some data transformation. Right? So that is possible with the help of ETL job. So to talk about, so basically this is where ETL is used. When we wanted to load the data from OLTP to OLAP system, so in this process, the activities that we go through with the help of ETL are extraction, transformation, and loading. So let's talk in detail what exactly ETL is. So it is a short form for extraction, transformation,
And loading.
and loading.
Yeah.
So now, say there is an organization that has the data being extracted or being processed from multiple systems. Say for example, there is a retail store like Walmart. Now these Walmart guys will be capturing the data from different systems on any given business day. Let's say at their billing counters, the billing information that they are capturing may be into a relational database like Oracle or something, or SQL Server or something.
Right.
Now on the same day, let's say they have some customer call service wherein we can just call on to the number to know more about the product details or to log the complaint and so on. Let's say these call details, they are capturing into some application system like SAP or Salesforce or something,
Okay.
which is an application. This is a relational database. This is an application database. And next, let's say they have some inventory information at their at their warehouses, some truck information or cartons information and so on, which they might not have some application available. Maybe they are doing some manual entries into Excel files. Now, look at this. They are capturing different types of data, different forms of information through different types of sources. One is a relational database, and there is an application database, and there is a simple Excel file and so on. Now, when they wanted to maintain a centralized
Hello?
we were capturing the details from different databases on any given day. So when Walmart guys would like to maintain their centralized data warehouse, so obviously they need to extract information from all the systems, and also there comes the aspect of integrating the data from all the systems, right? Say for example, there is a product that is being sold, so they wanted to know how many products that were sold from the billing information, and they can know how many of these products that were taken into their inventory that is stored available in the warehouse. Those details can be captured from their inventory information, and they can understand the demand of this product, how many customers were asking and all from their customer call details. So that means all this data has to be integrated to properly analyze the information, right? So now in this extraction and transformation loading process, First, in the extraction phase, it is a simple reading or extracting activity from all the different possible source systems. So extraction means to read or extract or fetch the data from external heterogeneous source systems.
Sources.
Heterogeneous means any
Different,
kind
right?
of systems, different kind of systems. Next, transformation phase. So transformation phase means playing around with the data. That means bringing the data from one form to another form. So there can be different activities that are considered as data transformation activities. It can be a cleansing activity, it can be a validation activity, or even it can be a data derivation activity. So cleansing means if there is any unwanted information that you want to cleanse out, right, that can be cleansing activity. If there is any data standardization process that you need to apply, that is also considered as cleansing activity. Say for example, there are customer details that you're processing. Now these customer, for each record there is a, say for example, there is a country column. Now for some customers, the country column is populated like this, and for some customers it is populated like this,
Yeah.
and for some it is like this. So now what you see, though all these entries are representing the same country, but the value is not a standard one. So as part of data cleaning process, what I can do is I can just standardize this name with one unique name across the database.
Okay.
We'll say yes. So this is considered as cleansing activity. Okay. Basically, this is a data standardization, but which is considered as cleansing activity. Next, data validation. Validation means we'll be checking for the validity of the data. So, for example, there is an email ID information that you are processing. So, how do you validate an email ID? You'll be checking whether there is an @ symbol or not. You'll be checking whether it is being suffixed with the proper domain or not, and so on. So, this is data validation activity. Even let's say there is a phone number that you want to validate. So, for example, you want to check the syntax of the phone number, the format of the phone number. So usually US numbers are in this format, right? Say first three numbers are separated with a braces, and last four numbers are separated with a hyphen. This is the US number 4. So to check these, this is also one form data transformation activity where you are checking for the proper syntax or formats of the data. Next comes data derivation. Derivation means we are deriving new forms of the data, new sets of the data with the help of raw information coming from our source systems. Say for example, there is an employee information that you are processing. Now there are two columns, for example, salary and commission you're getting from the source. To deliver into target, the requirement of your project is to calculate total salary, annual salary, and even tax details. So these information we are not directly getting from the source system. So how do we get this? We need to calculate or derive using the raw details coming from the source. So total salary, I can calculate it summing salary plus commission, right? These together can be forming as total salary. Next, I'll further take total salary, multiply it by 12 times, which I can call it as annual salary.
That's all right.
And then again tax, I can take annual salary and apply whatever the possible percentile that needs to be applied. So this is what data derivation means. We are deriving new forms of the data with the help of raw information coming from the source system. So this is also one form of data transformation. It can be a cleansing activity, it can be a validation activity, or it can be data derivation activity, which are basically called as data transformations. This is the important phase in all the three phases that we have. In the extraction, transformation, and loading phase, transformation is the most important phase.
Yeah.
Next comes final phase, that is loading activity.
Loading. Yeah.
So now again, loading means it is simply writing the data, upload the data into your external heterogeneous target system. That means your target can also be any type of target. Sometimes your warehouse can be a SQL Server data warehouse, or it can be an Oracle system, Teradata, Netezza, right? Any kind of target system it can be, you will be able to load the data. Just a minute. Right. So now there is, in this loading phase, there is a specification called incremental loads.
Okay.
So what is incremental load? What is so special about it is, say for example, you have designed a ETL job that reads the data from a particular source and transforms it and delivers the data into a particular target. Now, say the volume of your source on day 1 when you run the job is 1 million. Okay? So the job will be reading all 1 million records, transform them and deliver the data to your target, all 1 million records. Now, obviously ETL job means it is scheduled to run on your daily basis. When you run the job on the second day, you should not be reprocessing the entire volume. You already processed this 1 million data. Let's say some 1K new records are added to your source by day 2 when you run the job. You are now just need to process that newly added volume because all this 1 million was already processed. So just take this 1K and process it and deliver the data to target so that at the end of the day in target also you can have 1 million plus 1K.
That's good.
So again on day 3 if there is some more new data added, let's say here some 2K is added. So now only the 2K new records that are added needs to be processed, transformed and then applied to target accordingly. So whatever we observe here, the ability to identify those newly added records and process only those of them to the target. So this concept is called incremental loading. Instead of reprocessing the entire volume again and again, identify what are all the newly added changes and process only those of them to the target is called incremental loading, which is basically implemented in the phase loading phase.
Okay.
So clear so far, the 3 phases: extraction, transformation and loading.
Good.
So this is the generic explanation of what exactly goes in the process of ETL. So now in any project, in any organization, to achieve these kind of data transformation requirements, we choose a ETL tool available in the market. So there are a bunch of ETL tools available.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So there are a bunch of ETL tools that are available, like Informatica Powercenter. IBM also has its ETL component like Data Stage. Microsoft has ETL component, SQL Server Integration Service. Oracle has ETL component like Data Integrator. SAP also has its ETL component, right? Even open source tools we see these days like Talend, Pentaho, etc. Okay, so these are the few popular ETL tools available in the market. Among these, Powercenter is the most popular one that is available. So, for example, to talk about the numbers, Powercenter is having more than 7K customers across the globe, while the second one in the competition, that is Data Stage, is having the customers around 4K, I guess. So if you see the difference, the first guy and the second guy is having almost 40 to 50% of the difference. So that means Informatica Powercenter is kind of ruling the ETL industry. Okay, so that is happening because it has the ability to process the data with ease, and it has the ability to support various systems. Say for example, if you take any newly available database available in the market, you should be able to read from that particular database using your Informatica Powercenter. Right? Even when it comes to the writing data, if you take any kind of target system, you'll be able to write the data into it. So that is what unique about Informatica Powercenter. It has
Okay.
the support of various systems when compared to any other ETL tool that is available in the market.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and that's just not that. There are different data integration tools like data quality, master data management, metadata management, right, cloud. So all these the entire suite is available with Informatica guys, so that if the organization requires any other data integration component or data warehousing related tool, the synchronization between these two components, the compatibility between these two components is very high when compared to any other ETL tool that is available in the market. So that is also one of the fetching feature for Informatica Powercenter. Okay, so that's about a brief introduction about what are the different tools that are available in the market in the ETL industry.
Okay.
Now let's jump into what is Informatica Powercenter. So next, let's now talk about Informatica Powercenter.
Right.
So Informatica Powercenter is a product name actually, and like I mentioned, this comes as part of one of the many tools coming from Informatica Corporation. So basically, Informatica produces different tools. One among them is Powercenter. Other few to name are data quality, master data management, metadata management, cloud server, data transformation studio, and B2B data exchange, right, Vibe, many others. So among all these, Powercenter is a component that is used for ETL activities. So though it has these many products coming from Informatica Corporation, among all these tools also, Powercenter is the most popular product among all these. So that is the reason usually it is referred as Informatica tool. But to be specific, it is Informatica Powercenter that we use for ETL activities. There are other components as well coming from Informatica Corporation. Right. So now, Informatica Powercenter, to talk about the architecture standpoint, this is a server and client architectural tool. You'll have a centralized server which will be accessed through all the client components by all the stakeholders. At the same time, this is also considered as your service-oriented architecture, SOA. So that means every activity you will be having an associated service taking care of that particular activity. Now, from the developer's point of view, server is not need to be learned because there are different rules when it comes to Informatica Powercenter project.
Hello?
Architecture, as we all know, SOA means every activity there will be a corresponding service that needs to take care of it. Now, as I was mentioning, in Informatica Powercenter project, there are different roles: administrative team, development team, and testing team. So admin guys will be there, developers and testers. Now, admin team are the ones that are responsible for server maintenance and so on, and developers and testers will be using only the client components. Basically, we'll be accessing the server, but they'll be working on the client components. Now, as a developer, we don't need to know everything from the admin point of view. There are many things on the server level. Again, it's actually a separate entire course to learn about the Informatica admin things. But there are three particular components of the server that we must be aware of. As a developer, there are three particular components that you must be aware of, which actually helps you to understand the environment easily. Right. So I'll just explain about those three components and then we'll move on to the client and talk about it in detail. So server, the three components that a developer is advised to be aware of are a repository database, and a couple of services like repository service and integration service. Okay, repository database, repository service, and integration service. So now, see, Powercenter is an ETL tool. Okay, it is a ETL tool. That means what actually we achieve through ETL tool, we'll be creating a data transformation jobs. In the job, what is that we take the source definition, we take the target definition, we write the transformation logic, and so on. That means all this design, data transformation logic, everything is considered as metadata, right? Metadata, because we are defining how we want to transform the data. So it is nothing but metadata. And what is the intent? We want to run the job on regular basis. That means we need to store all this code or what are the transformation logic that we write at some place. We need to store that information at some place. So where exactly Informatica can save that information is in its own database called repository database. So repository database means it is a relational database exclusively maintained by Informatica server for the maintenance of its metadata. Right? So for example, this is the interface of Informatica Powercenter, wherein this is a job wherein I am reading from a couple of sources, joining and then delivering into something. This is the mapping or a job, and these are the tables, the transformation logic that we write. So all this information, where exactly this is saved? This is saved in the backend repository database that is hosted on the Informatica server level. So just to show you quickly, this is a database that my Informatica repository hosted. See, all these tables, all these are created and maintained by Informatica server itself. No manual intervention is required. You should not be accessing these tables. Say for example, here I have created a mapping here, right? So there will be a table wherein it will be storing this mapping data, wherein it will be storing the source details, the transformation logic details. So everything, it's nothing but metadata. So to store all this information, Informatica server maintains its own database called repository database. Now, where exactly this database is hosted? On the server level. So first of all, this is a relational database maintained by Informatica server for the purpose of for the maintenance of metadata. So now, where exactly this database is? It is hosted on a server. But all the stakeholders will be accessing from this client component. Okay, this is a client component, be it a developer, be it a printer or something. So how does this happen? How actually a client component can access the repository database that is hosted on the server with the help of repository? Hello?
Hello, I'm here. I'm here. Hello?
Yeah, Daniel, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, Rod. Rod? Are you there?
Oh, yeah, Daniel. I'm there, but seems there is a lot of disturbance on your end.
Oh, hold on, baby. Hold on, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay, go ahead, I'm ready.
Yeah, just a minute, please.
Okay. Are you there?
Yeah. Right. So, like I was telling, there is a repository database, one of the component that is hosted on the server. Next, how do we access this repository database that is there on the server? With the help of a service called repository service. So, repository service is the one that helps accessing the repository database from the client components.
Okay.
So, helps communicating with centralized repository database. Next, another important component of the server is integration service. So integration service means, you see, ETL tool means it has to read the data from a particular source. It has to deliver the data into a particular target. So this guy ETL server is like a middleman, right? It will be staying in middle. They communicate with source guy, take the data, transform it, and then deliver it to target people. So how does this communication with your external systems can happen is with the help of integration service. So helps communicating with external systems. Okay, so these are the three components that are part of the Informatica server. We will not be maintaining any of this as a developer. You are not asked to create a database or create the service or maintain them and so on. Admin team will be taking care of this. Just that in order to work better with the environment, it is advised to be aware of what are all these and so on. Say for example, on a particular morning, you open your client component, you could not connect to your repository database. Okay, you are getting this prompt, but when you connect, it is not taking you into it. It is giving some error. Then you can make out that the repository service is not running. Server is up. How are you getting to know that server is up? Because it is giving you the prompt. It is reaching the server here. But when you connect it, it is not going inside. It is failing there. So that means you can pinpoint the error saying that there is an issue with repository service while the server is running. Similarly, when you run the job, the data reading and writing is not happening. The execution is not getting started. Then you can know that, okay, there is some issue with integration service which actually takes care of communicating with your external systems and so on. So likewise, in order to work effectively with the environment, it's just that you need to be aware of what are all the components that are behind that helps with these things and so on. Okay. Right, so that's at server level. Now let's go to the actual components that we'll be working on the daily basis. Those are client components. So coming to the Powercenter client components, there are 4 components. The two client is divided into 4 components: repository manager, designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor. So these are all the 4 client components. Again, from these 4 client components, developers will be using these 3 components most of the time, and the repository manager is given to the admin team itself as part of their responsibilities. Why? Because the activities that we carry out through repository manager are usually will be under the control of admin team itself. So what actually we can achieve through repository manager is creation of folders, access privileges to those folders, and code migration. You see, in Informatica, how the scope is defined is in the form of a folder. That means, say for example, in your organization, there are some 4 Informatica development teams, and obviously each team will be assigned a different project, right? So there can be case your project data cannot be accessed by any of the guys other than that are in the team, right? Let's say there is a team that is working, some 5 people are there. Only those are given specific privileges to access the project data. So how do you restrict that while everyone is accessing the same repository? You'll be creating separate folders for each project. Now that you have 4 teams, you'll create 4 different folders, and for each folder you'll be giving access to only those guys who are assigned to that project, so that the other teams will not be able to access the repository information. So the scope here is defined in the form of a folder, right? So within folder you are restricted to carry out what are the activities that you can. So this activity is actually done in repository manager component. Next, when it comes to the code migration, right? Once the development is done, once you wanted to move the code to higher environments like staging or production, then this is actually taken care in repository manager, right? So let's open this repository manager. So this is the client component repository manager. Here you can see, once you open, this is the repository database. So actually this is there on the server. So that means first you need to connect to it, then we can see the contents of this repository. So I'm connecting to it. So it's connected. Now I can see the folders, different folders that are already available. Now for you, let's create a folder. So this activity of creating a folder in real time is usually not given to the developers. This is taken care by admin teams. Okay, permissions tab is where they'll add all the users that they wanted to give the access. It's usually called as access control list. Next, once done, folder is created, prompt says, and you can see that is listed out here. That's it. That's pretty much we can do in the first component in repository manager. Okay. Next, let's come to the rest of the 3 components which will be accessed daily basis by a developer. First, designer. Designer is a very important component. Why? Because the majority of the development work is carried out here in the designer component, right? Like bringing in the source and target definitions, writing your transformation logic, and so on. So now in the designer component there will be 5 subcomponents within it serving the different purposes: source analyzer, target designer, transformation developer, maplet designer, and mapping designer. Okay, 5 subcomponents within the designer component. Are you able to follow? Do you feel I'm going faster? Are you able to catch up?
Yeah, catching up. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Catching up.
Because if you think it is too much for the day, then we can just go. We can take it up next day. That is the reason. Is it fine if you stop it here today and pick it up from tomorrow, or is it okay if I continue?
Yeah, we'll start it again tomorrow. All right. Hold on.
Yeah.
Can we get done with the clients and we'll continue tomorrow? Can you get done with the workflow manager and workflow management and start there after this one?
Designer, let's complete this one today.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm asking you. I didn't get you properly, so.
I'm saying let's complete everything on the client for today and we'll continue tomorrow with something else.
All right, because the rest of the components would take another 20 minutes. Would that be fine for you?
Oh, okay. So no, that's too much.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah. So let's start with design today. Start with design.
Yeah. Right. We'll take design and then we'll stop there. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, or let's take it designer also. tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll not be able to connect. I mean, we'll be taking off tomorrow because I'm traveling. Actually, I have a pre-planned travel. So day after tomorrow we'll be continuing.
Okay. Oh, that was
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just covered until server level. We just talked about the introduction about ETL, what actually we also seen. When it comes to ETL Informatica, what are the different products that we have? Right. So that's the coverage for today. Next, again, when we start off the day after tomorrow, I'll give you a quick recap on the server and the one component that we talked about. Then we'll talk in detail about the designer and so on.
Okay. Okay.
And I hope that the software was set up for you already.
Yeah, it's set up. Yeah, it's set up.
That's great. Right.
Yeah.
So from day after tomorrow, we can go with an uninterrupted sessions, and based on your pace that you're catching up, we'll see how soon we can just wrap this up. Right?
Okay. Okay.
Right. Thanks, Daniel. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too, Raj. Good night. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.